या देवी स्तूयते नित्यं विबुधैर्वेदपारकैः सा मे वसतु जिह्वाग्रे ब्रह्मरूपा सरस्वती। या श्रद्धा धारणा मेधा वाग्देवी विधिवल्लभा भक्तजिह्वाग्रसदना शमादिगुणदायिनी। नमामि नारायणपादपङ्कजं करोमि नारायणपूजनं सदा वदामि नारायणनामनिर्मलं स्मरामि नारायणतत्त्वमव्ययम्। अपार करुणासिन्धुं ज्ञानदं शान्तरूपिणं श्रीचन्द्रशेखरेन्द्रगुरुं नमामि मुदान्वहम्। यस्य प्रसादात् अहमेव विष्णुः मय्येव सर्वं परिकल्पितं च इत्थं विजानात्मि सदात्मरूपं तस्याङ्घ्रिपद्मं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम्। ध्यानमूलं गुरोर्मूर्तिः पूजामूलं गुरोः पदं मन्त्रमूलं गुरोर्वाक्यं मोक्षमूलं गुरोः कृपा। Invoking the grace of Vagdevi Goddess Saraswati, Guru Ayappan, Mahapriyava and other Guru Parampara, we are now entering into verse number 6 of Dasakam 25. Brahmyantam didijadamam punarapi prodgrihya dorbhya javad dvare toryuke nipatya nakaran vyutkaya vaksho bhuvi nirbindan adhigarbha nirbhara galat raktambu baddhotsabam payam payamudairayo bahujagat sambhari simharavan. Brahmyantam ditijadhamam punarapi prodgrihya dorbhyam javad dvare thoryuge nipatya nakharan vyutkaya vaksho bhuvi nirbindan adhigarbha nirbhara galat raktambu baddhotsavam payam payamudairayo bahujagat sambhari simharavan. Anvaya. Brahmyantam ditijadamam punaha api javad dorbhyan prodgrihya ata dvare uruyuge nipatya vaksho bhuvi nakharan vyutkaya nirbindan adi garbha nirbharagalat raktambu baddhotsabam payam payam jagat samhari simharavan bahu udairayaha. This is the order. Now we'll go into the meaning of this verse. Brahmyantam, who was circling around, moving around. Ditija dhamam. Adhamam is the wicked or the cruel. Ditija means Hiranyakashipu, born of Diti. So the wicked Asura, Hiranyakashipu. Punaha api. Again and again we can take it also. Javad, quickly. Dorbhyam prodgrihya. Catching with both the hands, ata, then, dvare, at the entrance to the hall or palace, uruyuge, on two thighs. Yuge means two, uru means thighs. Nipatya, throwing down, vaksho bhuvi, on his chest, nakharan vyutkaya, thrusting thy nails, nirbindan, tearing, adhi garbha, nirbala garat raktambu. Raktambu means the blood, which is how it is that is gushing out from within. Adi garbha nirbhara means with great force. That's what it means. Baddhotsavam, with glee or joy. Payam, drinking again and again. Jagat's samhari simharavan. Simharavan means the lion roars, which could destroy the universe. Jagat Samhari. Simharavan means the lion roars, which could destroy the Jagat Samhari, the entire universe. Bahu Udairayaha. Thou did emit many times, or did many times. Thou did emit many times. This is the meaning. So then again, quickly catching with both the hands, that wicked Asura who was circling around and throwing him down on the thighs at the entrance to the palace or hall, thrusting thy nails into his chest and tearing it, thou did drink again and again with glee or joy the blood gushing out from within, while at the same time emitting lion roars which could destroy the whole universe. So it's a continuation of the previous verse in terms of describing how Lord killed Hiranyakasipu. So here it is mentioned here, Lord clutched the wicked Asura again with his hands, and him on his thighs, thrusting the nails into his chest and tearing it. That's what it's talked about. That means the Lord tore his body asunder and were drinking the blood which is gushing out from his body like a water flowing from the river, no? Like that, as it was flowing continuously, and enjoying it. That is the glee is talked, Lord is enjoying. The Narasimha Rupa is talked about here, just as the lion enjoys the prey, the Lord was enjoying. Wicked Hiranyakasipu was his prey. The lion roar was such that it would destroy the entire universe, that is talked about. Earlier also mentioned that Lord entered into him like entering into the universe, which was we saw earlier, in an attempt to destroy. That force, that violence is talked about. The anger is talked about. The degree of hatred is talked about. And this also talked about also vividly also in the verse number 30 and 31 in a similar tone in Bhagavata in the chapter 8, where it said that Lord Narasimha's mouth, Ananaha, and Kesara, mane, were sprinkled with spots of blood. Ashrugalba is said, as the word here. Sambrambat Rukshayakarala Lochano. Ashruglava is the word used, Ashruglava. And his fierce eyes, that is the Karala Lochana, Sambramba Dushpreksha, full of anger, and although it is very difficult and very almost impossible to look at that hatred is talked about, that fierceness of the Lord, he licked the edge of his mouth. That means Anana Antam Binihan. That's a literal definition. Anana Antam is the edge of the face, licking the edge of his mouth with his tongue. That's how he licked the blood from his Hiranyakasipu is talked about here, with his tongue, means Swajikvaya. And the Lord who is decorated with, it is mentioned here, garland of intestines. This I think Patadari Bhatt also is going to talk about in the subsequent verse also. Yata Antramali. Antramali, the word is used, taken from Hiranyakasipu's abdomen, and which resembles now the Lord resembles like a lion, Harihi. The word Harihi is also for Lord, we say name one who destroys Papa. A lion also is called Hari. So it is one Hari, the Lord, who assumed the avatar as Hari, lion, and then killed the Hari who is the enemy also, Hiranyakasipu. So Hari to Hari to Hari. That's how we should see here. And then it said he is like, and that he killed an elephant like Dipa Hatyaya. It similarly is given, the Lord how he killed was like a Lord killing an elephant. The original word used here is Dipa Hatyaya. Dipa Hatyaya means killing an elephant or a baby elephant. Once I would put it. And continuing this further in verse number 31, it was mentioned, Lord who had Dordhandayutaha, means who had got many arms. It's mentioned here, Dordhandayutaha, tore his heart, Utpatita Saroruham, which was like a Saroruham, is a lotus flower. Describing that born from the Brahmas, like that a meaning is given here. Tore his heart, which was like a lotus flower. Visrujya threw him aside and turned towards the soldiers. Visrujya tasya anucharan. Anucharan means the soldiers who had come out in thousands, Sagasra, to fight with him. They have come with weapons, it is mentioned, Ayudhan. But Lord killed Ahan, all them with is nails and other weapons. Naga Shastra Panibhi is the so literal meaning is Naka and Shastra. Naka, nail and weapons. But here Narasimha took the avatar because he killed Hiranyakashipu with nails only. It can be also interpreted as using these nails as the weapon. He also killed the other soldiers who had come in thousands to fight with him. That shows the mighty power of the Lord, that he could destroy one and all of them with total ease. And here we should remember also that while killing Hiranyakashipu, Lord fulfilled all the conditions of the boon which was sought by Hiranyakashipu when he did his tapas at the Mantra Giri, when Brahma granted him boons. One is first he said not to be killed by Nara or Mriga. Therefore Lord took the avatar as Nara Mriga, Narasimha. It should not be Brahma Srishti, therefore it is Lord's own Srishti. He has come from the pillar itself. These are the conditions we must recollect. We saw in the 7.3.36. That is chapter 3 and 36th verse in Saptamaskanda. So Nara, not to be killed by Nara or Mriga, mean by human or Mriga. So he took a Nara Mriga, Narasimha. That condition was fulfilled. Half lion, half human. That not during day or night, Diva or Naktam. So it is Sayam Sandhya, the dusk time it selected. Not inside or outside. Antaha Bahi Yastar Papan. So therefore Lord killed him at the doorstep. That means it is neither inside nor outside. Then not using any external weapons. Na ayudaihi. Suppose Lord used his own nails to pierce his body. He did not take any extra weapons and then tore his chest, of course. Then not on the earth or sky. Bhumau or Ambaraha. Therefore he placed him on his lap. So carefully it is done because Lord wanted to also see that boons, Brahma's boons are honored. Then Vyasubihi, he has that it should be by one which has no life, he asked like that. Vyasubihi, Asumadbihi, that's what the main. That means by something which has no life or by any entity that has life. Lives. That means he has used nail. Nail is considered to be neither living nor dead. Because nail grows, therefore there is life. At the same time, when you bite the nail, when you remove the nail, you don't experience pain. So the Lord used nail, which is neutral. That's why the nail is not about. Of course, he had asked that he should not be killed by Sura or Asura, and therefore the Lord himself took the avatar as a Narasimha and approached him and killed him. The Hiranyakashipu moved at a speed between the sky and the earth. That ferociousness of the thing was talked about in the like a hawk we saw earlier, and the skies was closed because of the fear. All this were talked about. Therefore, the Lord had to play with him, and he had to catch him with both the hands because he was moving around like a hawk. So that aspect which is talked about, he was moving like a hawk. Of course, it's not mentioned by Bhattacharya, but it can be implied from the Bhagavad Stotra. In this way, the Lord finally killed him. And what happened thereafter, we will cover in verse number 7. Namostute Mahayogin Prapanna Manushadimam Yata Tvacharanam Bhoje Ritihi Syat Anapayani Bhave Bhave Yata Bhakti Padayostava Jayate Tata Kurusha Devesa Natastum Nojata Prabhu Nama Sankirtan Vesya Sarvabhava Pranasanam Pranama Dukka Samanaha Tam Namami Harimparam Narayana Akila Guru Bhagavan Namaste Hariyo Ya Devi Stuyade Nityam Vibuder Veda Paragaihi Same Vasatu Jihvagre Brahma Rupa Saraswati Namami Narayana Padapangajam Karomi Narayana Pujanam Sada Vadami Narayana Namadharmalam Smarami Narayana Tattvam Yasya Prasada Dahame Vishnuhu Mayeva Sarvam Parikalpitam Che Itam Vijanami Satatmarupam Tasyangri Padmam Pranatosmi Nityam Apara Karuna Sindhum Yanatam Shantarubinam Sri Chandrasekharendra Gurum Namami Bhutanbham Dhyana Moolam Gurur Murtihi Puja Moolam Guru Padam Mantra Moolam Gurur Vakyam Moksha Moolam Guru Kripa. Invoking the grace of Vagdevi Goddess Saraswati, Guru Ayyappan, Mahapariva and Guru Parampara, we are now entering into verse number 8 of Dasakam 25. tavan mamsa vapa karala vapusham gorantra maladharam tvam madhye samabiddha gopamushitam durvara gurvarabam abhyetum na shashaka kopi bhuvane dure stita bhiravaha sarve sarva virincha vasava mukhaha pratyeka mastoshata tavan mamsavapa karala vapusham goramtra maladharam tvam madhye saba middharosha mushitam durvara gurvarabam abhyetum na shashaka kopi bhuvane dhure stita bhiravaha sarve sarva virincha vasava mukhaha pratyeka mastoshata. Anvaya. Tavat, then, tavat mamsa vapa karala vapusham gorantra maladharam durvara gurvaravam madhye sabham iddha kobam ushitam tvam abhedum bhuvane kaha api na shashaka sarva virincha vasava mukhaha sarve bhiravaha dure stitaha pratyekam astoshata. Tavat, then, mamsa vapa karala vapusham. Vapusham is body, whose body was terrifying because of mamsa, flesh, and vapakara, and fat smeared all over. Karala means terrifying. Mamsa vapa, flesh and fat, blood also we can take in that. Gorantra maladharam, who was wearing a frightening garland of intestines, which are of course Hiranyakashipu. Antra means the intestine. The same word is coming in Bhagavatam also. Durvara gurvarabam, emitting unbearably fierce roars. Rabam means roar, gurvara means fierce, and durvara means which is unbearable. Madhye sabam, in the midst of the assembly, iddha kobam, in a very great anger, ushitam tvam, thou were sitting, abhetum, to approach, bhuvane kaha api na shashaka, no one in the world was able, sarva virinja vasava mukhaha, Shiva, Brahma, Indra and others, sarve bhiravaha, all in great fear, dure stitaha, standing far away, pratyekam astoshata, each one praised thee separately. Then no one in the world was bold enough to approach thee, who were sitting in that assembly, looking terrifying, with the flesh and fat of those killed smeared all over thy body, wearing the intestines of the Hiranyakashipu as a garland, and emitting unbearably fierce roars in great anger. Shiva, Brahma, Indra and other gods, who were all terribly frightened, stood far away, and each one sang thy praises individually. So here first what is talked about is the Lord. Lord was sitting now in the throne, where Hiranyakashipu was sitting. But Lord was, how he was looking like? Lord was wearing the intestine of that is, which is extracted from the abdomen of Hiranyakashipu. So he was wearing it as a garland. Then flesh, fat and blood and other things smeared all over the body. And his lion roar was menacingly booming, and all was steeped in a fury or wild anger which was seen on the face. So all others who were in the assembly, stupefied with fear, everyone stood away, nobody could come near the Lord because of the great fear. Because of the fear, they kept away. They could not come near the Lord. That's how it is presented here. And who were all there? Where also is talked about. Bhattatribhar said, Shiva, Brahma and Indra and others. Here talked about others comes the Ardhavan. The Lord here, Shiva is addressed as Sarvaha. Sarvaha, the meaning is, it comes in Rudra also. Namo Bhavaja Sarvaya. Sarva means one who destroys. So the destroyer is talked about because the Lord has assumed the form of Narasimha, and therefore Bhattatribhar also used the word Sarva here. The Shiva is addressed as Sarva. In Bhagavata, of course, the word used is Rudraha. So all these were singing the praise of the Lord individually, standing apart from afar, means from a distance. Here the Apara Prakriti of the Lord is talked about, the Saguna Brahma, which is manifest in a form depending upon the scenery or context here. Therefore, it is in a fierce form. This Maya Tita, Atita Prakriti is called Apara Prakriti. Whereas the Prara Prakriti, which is Maya Rihita, without Maya's presence, Nirguna Brahma of Paramatma is in contrast, sharp contrast. Peaceful, free from modification, Nirvikara, formless, Nirakara, Ananta, limitless, etc. So the form here is in sharp contrast. That is what is talked about here at. It of course implies that Lord wielding Maya as the Shakti can assume any form depending upon the situation to protect his devotees. In this context, Hiranyakashipu was fierce enemy to Lord, and his Lord also assumed the fiercest form to destroy him. That's how we should see this also. It's not that Lord is really angry. Lord in reality is free from anger, but he puts on an appearance of great anger in order to kill the wicked Asura. Should be seen in that background. So, to Sambramba Yoga, the Lord killed him. And it is noteworthy that the Lord sat on the throne, it's mentioned here. And since the Lord here is Narasimha, he sat on the throne, Simhasana it is called. Thereafter only it is called Simha, because the Lord is a Narasimha. So the Simha sat on the throne, therefore this throne is always called a Simhasana. So the Simhasana here means that one who is majestic and grand. The Simhasana name came after the Lord Narasimha sat on the throne where Hiranyakashipu was there. He was sitting on the throne with full effulgence and of course having a fearsome countenance. And there are no contestants to oppose his power and opulence. So due to fear and obedience, or as a mark of respect to the Lord, no one came forward to near the Lord, but all of them offered their respectful obeisance to Lord from a distance. And who all came is vividly talked about in Bhagavata. In Bhattacharya talked about only the Brahma. Only three categories talked about is Shiva, Brahma and Indra. Whereas in Bhagavata, from verses 40 to 56, it is talked about 17 sets of persons came. Brahma, Rudra, Indra, Rishis, Pitras, then Siddhas, Vidyadharas, Nagas, Manus, Prajapatis, Gandharvas, Charanas, Yakshaha, Kimpurusha, Vaitalika, Kinnaraha, and Vishnu Parshadaha. These are the 17 categories of people who came in that assembly and sat at a distance. They saw the Lord and sang his praise. Each of them praised the Lord in their own way, in how they saw it actually. So, we'll not have time to go through all that in detail, but I would like to mention here only one of the things. What Brahma said. Brahma Uvacha, it is mentioned here as Uvachu Uchuhu. Brahma Uvacha, Indra Uvacha, or Rishayaha Uchu, it is Bahuvachana. So Brahma, what he said is, O Lord, you possess unlimited power or prowess. With power you can create, maintain and destroy or annihilate the universe. Yet we know you are the Avyakta Atma. That the word Avyaya Atma is the word used. Abhyayatma Parabrahman. We see you as a Parabrahman which is free from any changes or modifications. Your manifestation in various forms is indeed your Vibhuti or glory. This is how Lord Brahma Stuti was. And Lord Shiva said, O Bhaktavalsala, you killed that insignificant Alpakaha Asuraha, insignificant demon, Hiranyakashipu. And he says, Lord says, you shower your grace and protect your devotee Prahlada, who is the son of Hiranyakashipu, who has surrendered to you, Upasritam, and who is proximate to you. Upa means proximation is talked about. Then Indra said, by your presence, the gloom and darkness in our hearts have been destroyed, because they were all afraid of Hiranyakashipu that he would conquer them and they will not be able to have seats. That's why Indra has talked from that angle. And therefore, O Lord, one who is engaged in your service, talking about the glory of the Lord, Susru Shatam, he says, which is equivalent to Mukti, liberation of the Lord. He says, what you skim are the other Purusharthas, Aparam Kim, it's talked about, like Artha and Kama, material opulations or opulence, even the power, which are only ephemeral. Then the Rishi said, by killing the Asura who was protected us from, who was preventing us from performing tapas, austerity, you have enabled us to regain our spiritual prowess. Punaha Anbamamstaha, it's a word used here. Then the Pitrus said, Hiranyakashipu had stolen and enjoyed all the offerings of our Shraddhas by done of our sons and grandsons, because all those, the Tila, water, the Anna, Pinda, etc. given, it was all taken away. It was not going to the Pitrus. So that's why they say, you have stolen us from us and you have restored our rights by symbolically piercing his abdomen with your nails and stealing whatever he has stolen, giving it back. And finally the Vishnu Duta said, we understand that the Hiranyakashipu was the same Jaya who was your Dwarakapalaka, because Vishnu Dutas are also all, they were also Jaya Vijaya, also were sentries, so they could only recollect that aspect clearly. He said, they were your Dwarapalaka, Jaya was your Dwarapalaka, and due to the curse of the Brahma Rishi Sanakadis, they took the birth as Asura, and with fierce hatred, they came down, and by killing the Asura form of Hiranyakashipu, you have released the Jaya from the curse and took him back to the abode of Vaikunta, which indeed is your Anugraha to him. Here the destruction, Nigraha is Anugraha, that's how it is presented here. The words used in the Bhagavad Sloka is, that is in the 56th verse, I think. There it is said, Tasyedam Nidanam Anugrahaya Vidmaha. Vidmaha means you understand that Nidanam, which is a Nigraha, is indeed your Anugraha, and thereby Jaya Vijaya could gain Savijam with you. The Vedantic import of it is that Hiranyakashipu represents the Asuric and Rakshasic aspect of the Ahankar. Ahankars are three types, Asuric, Rakshasic and Sattvic. Any Ahankar is a Mithya. Only Sattvic Ahankar can bring you closer to the Lord. But Asuric and Rakshasic can keep you away. Hiranyakashipu represented the Asuric and Rakshasic Ahankar. The aspect of Asuric Rakshasic Ahankar is it's a sadistic, over-destructive, happy at being unhappiness of the others. There are four types of people we can also here classify individual also. There are first Uttamas are there, they want others to be happy. The Madhyamas are, they want they and others to be happy. The third category, Adama, they are only concerned with their happiness. They are not worried whether others are unhappy or happy or unhappy. The last category, which is the almost Asuric, Rakshasic destructive, is that whether I am happy or not, others should not be happy. So here, when the Lord's, when he takes his Hiranyakashipu symbolically represents that Lord took this avatar to destroy our Ahankar, Asuric and Rakshasic Ahankar, which finally makes us more sattvic. So the Daivika aspect comes once this goes away. So the Hiranyakashipu goes away and the Jaya comes back. The Dwaraka comes said. And through sattvic Ahankar, one gains the purity and one is able to gain the knowledge and thereby one becomes more proximate to the Lord. So the Sayujya takes place. So that is how the whole episode should be seen. The intention of the Lord was not to kill Hiranyakashipu. He only killed the Hiranyakashipu, through that the Asuric and Rakshasic, the Ahankar, but came back the Jaya, who is a Sattvic aspect, and took him back to the abode of Vaikuntha. And this is, Lord took this avatar as a fierce manner in a Sattvic. Lord also assumed the form of Rakshasic and Tamasic, to just like you remove a thorn through another thorn. That's how it should be seen. And Lord took back the Hiranyakashipu as Jaya back to his abode of Vaikuntha. With this we will proceed to the next verse in the next session. Bhave bhave yata bhaktihi padayostava jayate tata kurusha devesa natastam no yata prabho nama sankirtanam yasya sarva baba pranasanam pranamo dukkha samanaha tam namami harim param. Narayana Akhila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. Hariyo. Ya Devi Stuyade Nityam Vibhudair Veda Parakaihi Same Vasadu Jihvagre Brahma Rupa Saraswati. Ya Sraddha Dharana Medha Vagdevi Vidhi Vallabha Bhakta Jihvagra Sadhana Samadhi Gunasayini. Samadhi Gunadayini. Namami Narayana Pada Pankajam Karomi Narayana Pujanam Sada Vadami Narayana Namadribalam Smarami Narayana Tattvam Abhyayam. Yasya Prasadat Ahame Vishnuhu Mayeva Sarvam Parikalpitam Cha Ittam Vijanami Sadatmarupam Tasyangri Padmam Pranatosmi Nityam. Apara Karuna Sindhum Jnanadam Shantarubinam Sri Chandrasekharendra Gurum Namami Mudanbham. Dhyanamoolam Gurur Murtihi Puja Moolam Gurur Padam Mantra Moolam Gurur Vakyam Moksha Moolam Guru Kripa. Invoking the grace of Vagdevi Goddess Saraswati, Guru Vairappan and Mahapriyava, we are now continuing our discussion on verse number 9 of Dasakam 25. And in the last time we said that as an extension of this verse, the Prahlada story as detailed in Bhagavatam was covered, where we are continuing our discussion on the Prahlada story, which are contained in the Bhagavatam in chapter 9, Saptama Skanda, from verses 8 to 50. And we covered, I think, a verse up to verse number 11, where it is mentioned that, oh Lord, that I am nothing but your Pratibimba. My mukha is like the reflection on the mirror of the face. The face gets reflected in the mirror. Yata mukha Shrihi Pratimukasya. Here, one can also understand here that mind is the reflecting medium through which all our expressions and emotions are manifested. This is called the Bimba Pratibimba Vadaha. Means the reflecting medium is the mind. This Jiva is the reflected consciousness, is the Jiva, whose original Swarupa is Atma only. But due to ignorance, that reflecting through the reflecting medium, he gets limited as the Jiva, working through the three shariras, which are the Sukshma, Stula, gross, Sukshma, subtle, and Karana Sharira. Karana Sharira is the cause of the birth. So because of the ignorance of the one's nature, he blinded by Ahankara, born of ignorance. This Jiva, with his body, mind, sense complex, continues his journey endlessly in the form of repeated births and deaths, and carrying the prarabdha karma as his baggage, as per the law of karma. And this is what was meant by Prahlada when he talked about the how the Jiva functions. And I am knowing that reflected as the face is decorated by the reflection. The expression is implied, the Vedantic message is conveyed in this manner. And in verse number 12, Prahlada says, although I am born in an Asuric family, I offered my prayers unto you, O Lord, with intense efforts, and I surrendered to you. Sarva Atmana, that word is very powerful word, and therefore I am blessed by you. So, any person out of ignorance, ajaya, means ignorance, follows the sense pursuits and leads a materialistic life. The words used are guna visargam. Even such a person can be purified, puyate, and can come out of samsara chakra. The condition is that if he offers his prayers to the Lord and listens to his glory. The words used are anuvarnitena. So once one listens, remembers the Lord, chants his name, and listens to his glory as detailed in the scriptures, that person still can come out of can get purified and can be freed from the materialistic cycle of samsara. That's what is mentioned here. And Prahlada says, because this advice was given by Narada also, saying that Lord alone can protect you. Do not be afraid of Hiranyakashipu. So that is being brought about here. And therefore, in verse number 16 again, Prahlada says, O merciful Lord, Kripana Vatsala, Swakarmabihi, I am born by my own karmas of the past and have fallen into the samsara chakra cycle of birth and death, which is ugra, ferocious and fearsome. And it is dussaha, means intolerable or unbearable. And therefore I seek your lotus feet, angri moolam. The word used this. And I am waiting for that moment when you will take me into your abode and grant me liberation. The Apavarga Sarana means Apavarga means the Swarga, or it is also called used also for liberation in this context, that you take me to your abode and thus free me from the bondage of samsara. Continuing further, he says in verse 17, due to birth in the form of Janma, one is in pleasurable or painful situations. Means Priya and Apriya is talked about. Being Samyoga and Biyoga, united and separated. Because when you are united, there is a pleasure. When there is separation, there is a pain. So Samyoga, Biyoga causes Priya and Apriya. These situations are dvandvas, opposite one to another. And they are at all times, therefore, he says, tormented. Dakshyamanaha. This is the life of a jiva is describing about in details. Dakshyamanaha means burnt in the fire of pain and pleasure. Every pleasure is alternated with pain. Again, pleasure comes. So between two pains, there is a pleasure. So the samyoga and biyoga are temporary. That's what he is talking about it. And there is no solution. So even the remedies, he says, they cause me more pain only. They are more miserable than the miseries themselves. Dukkha aushadha. I mean, the solutions are more miserable than the dukkha itself. And therefore, I am unable to come out of this. Then due to ignorance, I consider this body itself as Atma or self. Because that is a basic problem which is being talked about here. Due to ignorance, I consider this body as the Atma and therefore I undergo all this misery. Therefore he says, I seek, because how to come out of this Jivatma or Dehatma Baba, I seek shelter in your feet and be servant to you. It's a prayer of a devotee, sincerest devotee. And this which alone is the ultimate solution. O Lord, please guide me in leading such a life of servitude. The words used are Dasya Yoga. And continuing further, he says, O Lord Narasimha, by engaging in your service of the Lord and understanding that I am not separate from you. The Vedanta is talked about here also. Atma Jnanam and devotion both are put together. Soham Bhavaha. Soham means Saha. That you are I and you are not separate from each other. So understanding that and then serving you. So the Dvaita Bhakti and Advaita Jnana both are talked about here. And in the association of Hamsa Sangha, means the Sangha of the liberated saints, I shall become completely free from any taints. Vipramukta, or which means free from the impurities, free from the impurities or pains caused by threefold tapas, tapatraya. Tapatraya are three times, threefold. Adhyatmika, Adi Bhaudika, Adi Devika. One that is arising from one's own internally, from one's own mind and thinking. Adi Bhaudika from the environment outside. And Adi Devika from the acts of God. So these threefold kind of tapas are the cause of dukkha for us. And this I will be freed from these threefold tapas and thus able to chant your glories, following the footsteps of Brahma and his successors. The word used is Birincha Gitaha. And then he says, continuing further in verse number 19, that solutions or remedies within samsara are only temporary, they are not permanent. To elaborate this aspect, 3 examples are given by him. He says, A father and mother cannot protect a child permanently. Balasya niha saranam pitaraha. That is verse number 19 talks about that. 18-19. Balasya neha saranam pitarau. He says, talked about that. And then he says, a medicine cannot relieve a suffering patient. Medicine here we use agadam arthasya. Arthasya means a person suffering. Means they can temporarily give relief. All this can give temporarily, but they cannot totally relieve a suffering patient because they are only temporary talked about. And a boat on the ocean cannot protect a drowning person. Udanvati manchataha. Water. Udanvati means the udak means water. In the ocean of waters, a person who is manchataha means person who is drowning, that cannot, a boat cannot on the ocean cannot protect a drowning person. A physician or a doctor and medicine cannot relieve a suffering patient, and a father and mother cannot permanently protect a child. These three examples are given. Although protection is possible temporarily, but it cannot be, it must be permanent. Here we should understand here that the Lord Ishvara is the Samanya Karana, and any jiva out of free will, when you do an action, we become the Vishesha Karana. And therefore the Ishvara is called the Hetu Karta, and the jiva is the Karta proper, who does as per the free will. Now the Hetu Karta is the first cause for making us perform the action. That this Hetu Karta is the Ishvara is the Karma Phaladata also. He gives the result of our action. So any action when we perform to free will is also involves the Anugraha. Like when you plant a tree, it requires water. The water comes from the nature. Air is required for us breathing, for sustenance. So this again comes from the nature. Everything comes from there. So the Samanya Karana and Vishesha Karana go together. So that has to be kept here in mind, and Prahlada keeps this in mind and makes message. And then he says, everyone in this universe, Lord Brahma down to a small ant, being influenced by passion and ignorance, they are all your Swarupa only. You are the controller of the action of all the living entities. Karoti and Vikaroti is talked about separately as their nature. They perform various actions and modifications, hence all of them are your manifestations only. They are not separate from you. Here it is talked about again then that the creation is not separate from the creator. The Lord is called the Upadana, material cause, as well as the maker, the instrumental cause. As material cause, twofold material cause are talked about here. That as a Nirguna Brahman, he becomes as the Vivarta Upadana Karanam. That means he doesn't undergo any change, but lends itself to change. In the presence of the Brahman, all changes, all creation takes place. And then there is what is called the Parinami Upadana Karana. That means from a Brahma Drishtya, it is Vivarta Upadana Karanam. From the Maya Drishtya, from the aspect of Maya, it is Parinami. The changes all we see in the temple of Namarupas, names and forms, they are because of the Maya, impact of the Maya. So this Maya becomes the Parinami Upadana Karanam. And from the Pradibimba Chaitanya, because Brahman reflected in Maya is the Ishvara. So from the reflected medium of it, the Ishvara becomes the Nimitta Karana, the intelligent cause or the material cause. And therefore it says that Lord himself is the Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam. He is both the material cause as well as the maker. So the creation is not separate from the creator. The material for creation comes from the Lord himself. Exactly like Urnanabihi Sritate Gannateja, Mundaka Upanishad talks about it, like in the case of a spider who makes the web, it makes it out of its own saliva, it's not separate. Or like a dreamer in a dream world. In Upanishads, these examples are given. So when Prahlada says that here, that all of them are your manifestation, he means here that only, that the entire universe is not but the projection of the Lord himself. So nothing is separate from the Lord. He is both the maker and he is the material. And the jiva, as per his karma, as free will, as karma prarabdha karma, he has to undergo certain sufferings for his actions, which is not of the creation of the Ishvara. That is being talked about here. And therefore he says that that everything is nothing but your manifestation and not separate from you. And he says, when one functions, in verse 21, one functions under the influence of Maya through the 16 elements. These 16 elements are like the spokes of a wheel. What is talked about 16 elements here is that 5 karmendriyas, that is the actions, the senses of action, organs of action. Jnanendriya, that means the organs of knowledge, that is senses of knowledge. Then the 5 elements, we have covered this all earlier, so I am not elaborating further. The 5 elements and the mind, the antakarna. These together is referred to here as the 16 elements. 5 organs of action, 5 organs of perception, knowledge, and 5 elements and mind. These 16 elements, they are under the influence of Maya through this. The manifestations of Maya is through this only. And with this, the entire Prakriti is there, and the individual Jiva also functions. And caught by the hold of the Maya, this action bind him to the samsara chakra, the wheel. And he says, Prahlada says, who can come out of this vicious circle without you or your grace? Ko atitared tvadanyaha. That means only through your grace that I can come out of the samsara chakra. What is meant here? That karma can only bind. Through karma one cannot get liberation. Ishvara's grace is required to gain that Atma Jnanam and get liberated. That any karma, he says, even Shankaracharya says in Vivekchudamani, Chittasya Shuddheya karma natu vastu upalabhyate vastu siddhihi vicharena na kinchit karma kotibihi. That any karma, crores of karma cannot liberate. Only through the karmas only can only purify the mind. It cannot give that vastu, means the Atma Jnanam, which is possible only through gain that Atma only through Jnanam. That is being talked about here also. And that is what Prahlada says here also, saying that I can come out of this vicious circle only by your grace. When he says your grace, by understanding that gaining that knowledge, that my original Swarupa is only you. And with that knowledge and with the intense devotion, I will be able to traverse the samsara. Otherwise, the karmas keep on chasing me and I will be in the Janma Marana trap. That's what he means here. We'll continue more in the next session. Bhave bhave yatha bhaktihi padayostav jayate tata kurusha devesha natastvam no yata prabho nama sankirtanam yasya sarva bhava pranasanam pranamo dukkha samanaha tam namami harim param. Narayana akila guru Bhagavan namaste. Hari Om. Ya Devi स्तूयते नित्यं विभुतैर्वेदपारगैः सा मे वसति जिह्वाग्रे ब्रह्मरूपा सरस्वती. या श्रद्धाधारणा मेधा वाग्देवा विधिवल्लभा भक्तजिह्वाग्र सदना समाधि गुणसायिनी. नमामि नारायण पादपङ्कजं करोमि नारायण पूजनं सदा मदामि नारायण नाम निर्मलं स्मरामि नारायण तत्त्वमव्ययम्. यस्य प्रसादात् अहमेव विष्णुः मय्येव सर्वं परिकल्पितं च इत्थं बीजानामि सदात्मरूपं तस्याङ्घ्रिपद्मं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम्. अपार करुणासिन्धुं ज्ञानदं शान्तरूपिणं श्रीचन्द्रशेखरेन्द्रगुरुं नमामि मुदान्वहम्. ध्यानमूलं गुरोर्मूर्तिः पूजामूलं गुरोः पदं मन्त्रमूलं गुरोर्वाक्यं मोक्षमूलं गुरोः कृपा. Invoking the grace of Vagdevi Goddess Saraswati, Guru Ayappan, Mahapariva and Guru Parampara, we are now entering into verse number 9 of Dasakam 25. Bhuyopyakshata roshadhamni bhavati brahmajnaya balake prakhlade patayor namatya babaye karunya bharakulaha shantastvam karamasya murdhni samadhaha stotraye ratodgayataha tasya kama dhiyopi te nitavaram lokaya chanugraham. Bhuyopyakshata roshadhamni bhavati brahmajnaya balake prakhlade patayor namatya babaye karunya bharakulaha shantastvam karamasya murdhni samadhaha stotrairatot gayataha tasya kamadiyopi tenita varam lokaya chanugraham. We'll move into the Anvaya of this verse. Bhuyaha api bhavati akshata rosha dhamni brahma majnaya balake prahlade apabhaye padayoho namati tvam karunya bhara akulaha shantaha asya murtini karam samadhaha ata stotraihi udgayataha tasya akamadhiyaha api varam tenita lokaya anugraham cha. Bhuyaha api, even after that, bhavati, when thou akshata rosha dhamni were still the abode of unabated anger. Akshata rosha dhamni. Dhamni means the abode. Akshata means uncontrolled or unabated. Rosha means anger. So we are still the abode of uncontrolled anger. Brahmam aknya, at the command of Brahma. Brahmaknya, at the command of Brahma. Balake prahlade, when the baby Prahlada, or the boy Prahlada, apabhaye, free from fear, padayoho namati, prostrated at thy feet, tvam, thou, karunya bhara kulaha, overwhelmed by extreme compassion. Akulaha means overwhelmed, karunya bhara means extreme compassion. Shantaha, becoming calm. Asya murdhini, on his head. Karam samadhaha, did place thy hand. Atha, then. Stotraihi udgayataha tasya, to him who was loudly singing thy praise. Akamadiyaha api, though he did not have any desires. Varam tenita, did give a boon. Lokaya anugraham cha, and also blessings to the world. When thy anger continued unabated, even after those praises, the boy Prahlada, free from fear, prostrated at thy feet at the command of Brahma. Then thou, in extreme compassion, becoming calm, did place thy hand on his head and did give him, who was singing aloud thy praise, a boon, even though he was without any desires, and did also bless the whole world. It's a very beautiful verse. It is mentioned in Bhagavad that when all the other 17 categories were mentioned, who starting from Brahma, Shiva, Indra, Rishis, etc., they sung the praise of the Lord but could not go near him and therefore could not calm down the Lord. Devas approached then Mahalakshmi to pacify the Lord, but even Mahalakshmi could not go near the Lord. Then came the only person, Brahma thought, who is free from fear. Even Mahalakshmi, because the only reason is fear rising out of the frightful form of the Lord, which deterred all of them to go near the Lord. Thereafter, Brahma, knowing the glory of Prahlada and his supreme devotion to the Lord, ordained Prahlada to pacify the Lord. Prahlada here is qualified as a supreme Uttama Bhakta. In this verse, 3 adjectives are used. Balaka Prahlada is although he is a Balaka child, but Apabhayaha, free from fear. And he is Akamadiyaha, means he has got Nishkama Buddhi, intellect free from desires or expectations. So this Apabhaya and Nishkama Buddhi, these are two qualifications which alone made Prahlada go near the Lord. Any child, we notice normally that it is always innocent. It has no fear whatsoever. That is why a child is not afraid of even frightful things. Same is the case of Prahlada, whose mind is innocent and who had gained the devotion to through Narada, the devotion to Lord and also the Atma Jnana. Therefore, he was free from fear. He knew that Lord will protect him. Therefore, he free from fear. Prahlada approached the Lord and prostrated at the feet, at the pada of the Lord. It is mentioned here. Two aspects of Navavida Bhakti are covered here. One is called the Vandanam, other is the Sevanam, Pada Sevanam. That is brought out also here in this verse. The Salokya is coming out and the Samipya aspect also is coming out, going near the Lord to get his blessing. So Lord then became instantly calm and blessed Prahlada. He said he placed his hand on the head and then out came the stutis from the Prahlada. In fact, the Sparsha Diksha brought out the divinity of Prahlada and made him sing spontaneously the glories of the Lord. This is coming under in Bhagavata as the Prahlada Stuti. The word Stuti in English, we normally use the word praise. Generally, we mix up praise with flattery. Praise is different, flattery is different. Stuti is Guneshu Gunabhidanam, bringing out the glory or the attributes of the Lord, the gunas. So it is recognizing the glory of the Lord. It is not a flattery. Whereas any flattery is mithya stuti or atistuti, saying something which is not true. But the Prahlada stuti is recognizing the glories of the Lord as they are, should be understood. And therefore, the stuti has got a great role in Bhagavatam also. In many places it is coming. Many of the bhaktas like Kunti, besides Prahlada, Kunti, Gopikas, Gajendra, etc. also, their stutis also were covered. But we should understand here, as mentioned earlier, Lord in reality is free from anger. As Parabrahma, he is free from any vikaras. He is nirvikara and nirguna. But as Mayatita Ishvara, he puts on the costume of various modifications like anger to punish the wrongdoers like Hiranyakashipu. Hence, the negative expressions like anger are more superimposition or adhyasa on the Lord at the empirical level. This is the Vedantic import of this Lord's anger, which should be kept in mind. At the Paramarthika level, these are totally non-existent. The Lord is free from anger. Therefore, anger as one of the expression of Maya could be instantly substituted by the Lord with compassion, mercy and blessing towards Prahlada is brought about vividly here. The Prahlada Stuti is very covered in detail vividly in chapter 9 of Bhagavatam. That is the Saptama Skanda, chapter 9, from verses 8 to 50. We will cover a few of them so that we can understand how Prahlada as a divine bhakta, he recognized the Lord's glories and surrendered unto him. It is mentioned in Bhagavata that when Lord placed his hand on the head of Prahlada, his mind was cleansed and he became ecstatic. His heart was filled with love and his eyes overwhelming with tears flowing like Ganga. Spontaneously, these are the expressions of the devotion. And he could capture the lotus feet of the Lord within the core of his heart. The expression used is Tat Pada Patmam Hriti Nirbritau Dadhau. Beautiful expressions. Experiencing that transcendental or absolute Ananda. The studies are brought out in verse number 9, where it says, with humility, Prahlada prayed, O Lord, I am not qualified to be near to you. I am born in an Asura family. When all the other divine, saintly persons like Brahma, like Shiva and the Rishis, etc., they could not satisfy you through their hymns. Who am I to satisfy you? But I, as a devotee, I am coming near you. This is an expression of humility. Humility is the greatest virtue which purifies the mind and brings him closer to the Lord. It comes only through sense control. Absence of negative thoughts is the penultimate step for humility. I am bringing out these aspects from various verses from Bhagavad Gita, putting it in this manner. So, negative thoughts is an obstacle for purification of the mind. We should not allow negative thoughts to ruin our mind. So, this humility as a virtue, we could see this in abundance in Prahlada. Hence, he is considered to be the foremost bhaktas. There's a verse talking about 12 bhaktas where it starts with Prahlada Naradara. Prahlada Narada Parasara Pundarika. There are so many, the verse goes like that, which I think I covered earlier also. Prahlada Narada Parasara Pundarika Vyasambarisha Shuka Saunaka Bhishma Dalbyan Rukmam Gadarjuna Vajishta Bibhishanadin Punyaniman Parama Bhagavatan Smarami. These are the 12 Bhagavatas talked about, where Prahlada comes first. Although Narada advised him, gave him the Atmajnanam and devotion, also he elaborated to him, but Prahlada comes even before Narada. That is the glory of Prahlada, which he said. So such a Prahlada says that O Lord, I am trying my best to satisfy you through my hymns. He says, one may possess wealth, strength, mystic yogic power, etc., but cannot satisfy Lord except through utmost devotion and surrender to the Lord, as in the case of Gajendra, the king of elephants. The words used are Bhaktiya Tutosha Bhagavan Gaja Yutapaya. There's an expression coming there. And in verse number 10, he says, a Brahmana, even if he has the 12-fold qualifications as mentioned in Sanat Sujata, but not a devotee, he cannot purify himself. And in fact, inferior to even a dog eater who has dedicated everything to the Lord, mind, word, prana, life, wealth, everything, every action, hita is mentioned there. Such a person is divine itself. And Prahlada says in the verse number 11, O Lord, you are Nijalabha Purnaha, full by yourself. He is called as the Lord is Ishvara is called as the Samasta Avapta Kama. All these words have the similar meaning. That is your nature. That you are Nijalabha Purna, which is your nature or Surupa. So when a devotee offers something to you, it is not to benefit the Lord or please Him, but only for the benefit of the devotee. Lord only expects devotion. We saw earlier also in Bhagavad Gita, Patram Pushpam Palam Doyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati Tadaham Bhaktya Upgranami Prayadatmanaha. So whatever a person offers to the Lord, that offering mana is the word used here, is only for his own benefit. And the imagery given is like Pratimukasya Yatha Mukashrihi. Like if one's face is decorated, the reflection of one's face in a mirror is also seen to be decorated. That is why it is said, Yatha Shraddha Yatha Karma, Tata Karma, Yatha Karma, Tata Phalam. So one's reflection only, one's actions only produces the corresponding result as per the law of karma. So if one is pure at heart, if one's face is filled with Aishwarya, then the same reflection comes also in through the action. That's what is talked about here also. He says the person who, such a devotee, a person who has such a kind of purity of mind, that offering is doing only to the Lord is only for his own benefit, because it purifies his antakarna and it reflects his actions. Pratimukasya yatha mukashrihi. We'll continue more in the next session. Bhave bhave yatha bhakti padayosta vajayade tata kursha devesha natastam no yata prabho nama sankirtan vyasya sarva bhava pranasanam pranama dukkha samanaha tam namami harim param. Narayana Akila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. Hari Om. Ya Devi Stuyade Nityam Vibhudair Veda Parakaihi Same Basati Jihvagre Brahma Rupa Saraswati. Namami Narayana Pada Pangajam Karomi Narayana Pujanam Sada Vadami Narayana Namanirmalam Smarami Narayana Tattamabhyam. Yasya Prasadat Ahame Vishnuhu Mayeva Sarvam Parikalpidam Cha Ittam Vijanami Sadatmarubam Tasyangrapadmam pranatosmi nityam. Apara karunasintum jnanadam shantarupinam Sri Chandrasekharendra Gurum namami mudanvaham. Dhyanamoolam gurur murtihi puja moolam gurur padam mantra moolam gurur vakyam moksha moolam gurur kripa. Invoking the grace of Vagdevi Goddess Saraswati, Guru Ayappan, Mahapariva and Guru Parampara, we are now entering into verse number 7 of Dasakam 25. Tyaktva tam hatamashu raktalahari siktonnamad pratyutpatya samasta daitya patalim chakhadyamane tvayi brahmyat bhumi vikampitam buddhikulam vyalola shailotkaram protsarpat kacharam chara charamaho dusta mavastham dadhau tyaktva tam hatamashu raktalahari siktonnamad pratyutpatya samasta daitya patalim chakhadyamane tvayi brahmyat bhumi vikampitam buddhikulam vyalola shailotkaram protsarpat kacharam chara charamaho dustham avastham dadhau. Anvaya tvayi ashu hatam tam tyaktva rakta lahari siktonna madvarshmani pratyutpatya samasta daitya patalim cha khadyamane aho characharam dustam avastham dadhau brahmyad bhumi vikampitam pitam buddhikulam vyalola shailotkaram protsarpat kacharam aho. Tvayi means when, or thou. Ashu means quickly. Hatam tam tyaktva, leaving him, means Hiranyakashipu, who had been killed. Rakta lahari siktonna madvarshmani. Varshmani means the body. Udmad varshmani, the gigantic body, huge body, which is Rakta lahari, in the flow of blood, bathed in the flow of blood. Rakta lahari siktaha. Siktaha means bathed. Pratyutpatya, jumping up. Samasta daitya patalim, the entire host of asuras. Cha khadyamane, were eating up. Punaha punaha khadan. That's the meaning. Aho, wonder. Chara charanam charam, all the animate and inanimate world. Dustam avasthau dadam. Dustam avastham dadam, fell into a most unbearable, miserable state, we can say. Dustam. Dukkena tishtati. Brahmyat bhumi, with the earth whirling around. Vikampitam buddhikulam, all the oceans becoming turbulent. Vyalola shailotkaram. Shailotkaram is the mountain ranges. Vyalolat, all the mountain ranges are shaking. Protsarpat kacharam, and the stars and other heavenly bodies scattered. Kachara means stars. When thou, after leaving the dead asura, Hiranyakashipu, did quickly jump up, thy gigantic body, bathed in a flow of blood, and start eating up the entire host of asuras, all the animate and inanimate world, sentient or insentient living beings, we can say that way, fell into a most unbearable state, with the earth whirling around, the oceans becoming turbulent, the mountain ranges shaking, and the stars and heavenly bodies becoming scattered. Aho means what a wonder. Continuing from the earlier verse, for the description of the power of Narasimha, how he shook the entire universe, is being described here. We saw earlier the Hari, the Hiranyakashipu, the Hari, the Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, assumed the form of Narahari, Narasimha, and killed Ari. Ari means Rupu, the enemy, Hiranyakashipu. This is how the flow is. So after killing Hiranyakashipu, what happened is being explained here. It highlights the Shakti of the Lord and its impact on the Asuras and universe, which is in a state of wonder. The Lord destroyed all the Asuras, means he gobbled, means the numerous demons who had come in thousands and fought with him. Its impact fell on all Charachara, means the animate and inanimate world, sentient and insentient living beings, which fell into a state of total discomfiture or turbulence. That's where the words Dustam, Avastham, that is talked about. Then the earth were shaking or whirling around. Bhumi Brahmayad, that's the word used. The oceans were in a total turmoil. Ambudhi Kulam, the entire state of all the oceans becoming Vikampita, means shaking also, or turbulent, we can say it also. The mountain ranges shaking violently, and the stars and heavenly bodies were disastrously displayed or scattered. Lord manifested as limitless universe. The modification of his vikara shook the entire cosmos. That is the implication coming from this verse. Also, we will like to refer to the Bhagavata also. Last time we went up to verse 31 of chapter 8, and the description also is in a similar manner captured in Bhagavatam, which I would like to also discover here. You can see in verse number 32, verse Lord says, the hair of the Lord. The mentioned word used is Saravadhuta. The hair of the Lord. Satavadhuta is the means. The hair of the Lord on Lord's and shook the entire clouds. Avadhuta Jaladaha. Jaladaha means clouds. And scattered them across. That means the clouds were scattered all along. Avadhuta Jaladaha means scattered them across. Satavadhuta means the hair of the Lord Narasimhas. That shook the and scattered the entire clouds. Then by his glaring eyes, Parapatan, the scattered means the Parapatan is the word used to scatter the cloud. By his glaring eyes, the effulgence of luminous planets were stolen as it were. Vimushta Rochishaha, that's the word used here. Tadvat Vrishti Vimushta Rochishaha. Vimushta means stolen as it were. Rochishaha means the light, the effulgence. Then his breathing caused turbulence in the water of the ocean. How the human body works, that is described in a modified form in the universe, is talked about here. The breathing of the Lord, because of the lion's roar, of course, the violent breathing, caused turbulence in the water of the ocean. Ambodaya, it is in the Ambodaya is the word used. Swasahata Ambodaya is the word used. Then it says, frightened by the roaring of Narasimha, Nirhrada Bhita, all the elephants began to cry in fear. It's a Digiba, means the elephants. Bichukrusuhu means we are crying out of in fear. Then in verse number 33 is mentioned, aircrafts, that is the air equipments in the flowing there, were thrown up into outer space. Vimana Samkulaha Ukshipta Dhyau. Dhyau means sky. Vimana Samkula means the host of aircraft. So they were thrown up in the outer space. Ukshipta Dhyau. Tatsaraha, by his hair. Again it's talked about by his hair this happened. Then due to pressure of the Lord's feet, it is called Padadipidita is the word used. The earth Kshma Protsarpata slipped from its position. A major quake, earthquake as though it took place. Then all the hills and mountain ranges sprang up. That means Shailaha Samutpetuhu. That means of that Lord's force due to his roar and jumping across, the entire mountains, hills also sprang up. Almost there is a shook widely. That's what it's meant to talk about. Kam Kakubha. the word used here also is the kam kakuboho na rejire, means the sky and all the 10 directions, na rejire, did not shine, or they lost their natural effulgence. So you can see how the description is also, and Bhattatripad also, even Bhagavata also, the verses are difficult to pronounce because the words used are also equally hard. That shows the force of the Narasimha, the power that is being brought about here. It's called Kavyarasa. So implied from this description is the fact that the entire cosmos is nothing but the Virat Swarupa or Vishwarupa of the Lord. So it is a great wonder in one sense that Lord's anchor created such a turbulence of all sentient and insentient beings in the universe. At the same time, it can also be implied or inferred that it is not really a wonder, as any disturbance in the mind sequentially affects the body, which is not separate from the body of the Lord. The universe is not separate from the Lord. And therefore, any disturbance in the body of the Lord also affects the universe. That is being brought about. So here the Lord's anger is violent, and therefore everything is violent. The entire cosmos is displaced. And the word Narayana, for example, when you say, implies that Naram or Jagat or universe, Yasya Ayanam, is clothing. For one for whom the entire Jagat is his clothing is called Narayana. And therefore it is but natural that with Lord's roar, which is an expression of violent anger, his body in the form of universe is set to a state of total disequilibrium or near explosion status. Thus, along with Hiranyakasipu, even the entire universe also almost got shaken or destroyed in the process is being brought about in these verses, and also equally covered by the Bhagavatam verses. We'll move into the verse number 8 in the next session. Namostute Mahayogin Prapanna Manushadimam Yada Tvacharanam Bhoje Ritisyad Anapayini Bhave Bhave Yatha Bhakti Patayostava Jayate Tata Kurusha Devesha Natastam No Yata Prabhu Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarvabhava Pranasanam Pranamo Dukkha Samanaha Tam Namami Harim Param Narayana Akila Guru Bhagavan Namaste Hari Om.